I now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United States is committed to bringing hostages home. We welcome that New Jersey resident Edan Alexander is finally returning home as a result of President Trump's efforts and Israel's military pressure on Hamas. Hamas continues to prolong this horrific conflict by refusing to lay down its arms and releasing the remaining hostages. The Security Council needs to apply pressure on Hamas to free Palestinians from Hamas's tyranny. Shielding Hamas from accountability undermines Israel's security and does nothing to improve the lives of Palestinians. The United States supports Israel in its right to defend itself from groups that have attacked it. We recognize the steps Israel has taken to avoid inadvertent civilian casualties when targeting terrorists, and we stand unequivocally for the protection of civilian lives during armed conflict. No one wants to see Palestinian civilians in Gaza go hungry and thirsty. Mr. President, the United States supports getting assistance to non-combatants in Gaza in a way that does not allow Hamas to benefit. For weeks, members of this Council have been calling for a resumption in the flow of humanitarian aid to Gaza. Colleagues, there is now a means through which this can be done. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is an independent entity that has been established to provide a secure mechanism capable of delivering aid directly to those in need without Hamas stealing, looting, or leveraging this assistance for its own ends. Safeguards are in place to ensure Palestinian civilians in Gaza will have access to aid, preventing diversion by Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and criminal organizations, and ensuring that Israel can remain secure. Mr. President, the region ultimately has a choice. It can continue to allow Iran and its proxies, such as Hamas, to dictate the region's future, or it can instead choose a path forward toward a more prosperous future for all its people. We can start by meeting the immediate humanitarian needs of those who have suffered during this conflict by supporting a new way of delivering aid. I thank you.
I now give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
We today are yet once again discussing a situation which can only be qualified as a humanitarian catastrophe. For 10 weeks running, Gaza has been under a strict blockade, which was resumed by the Israeli authorities. Colleagues, we have to understand very clearly that every minute of delay, every day of the blockade, means lives lost. Children who are suffering from and dying from malnutrition, families who have to survive amidst the rubble out in the open. It's doctors and humanitarians who are desperately trying to save lives without having the resources to do so. Instead of showing political will and opening border crossings, West Jerusalem announced a new aid distribution mechanism, which, as we learned, was not supported either by the UN Secretariat or by its humanitarian partners who are working on the ground. Through this initiative, the Israeli leadership essentially is calling on the UN to become an accomplice of their own military operation and thus endanger the neutrality and impartiality of humanitarian activity. Under such conditions, one can hardly expect that even if the Israeli plans are implemented, it will be possible to effectively help 2 million Palestinians who became hostages to such political and military decisions. We must recall here the incident involving the humanitarian convoy of the Palestinian Red Crescent. On the 23rd of March, its members were executed in cold blood by the IDF in the suburbs of Rafah. As a result, 8 medics died, 5 civil defense people, and a UNRWA staff died as well. Israel acknowledged their involvement and started an investigation, but we have not to date received any proof of the fact that, as the Israeli representative claimed, that the ambulances contained Hamas members. This is an egregious situation that has to be very thoroughly investigated. An important milestone on this road to this could become the International High-Level Conference on the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in June in New York, which will be co-chaired by Saudi Arabia and France. And we intend to actively participate in it. I thank you.
Oh, sorry. I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of China. Sorry.
Recently, relevant countries have proposed the so-called Humanitarian Distribution Plan. We have noted that the United Nations have categorically rejected the so-called plan. Humanitarian assistance must not be weaponized, and the principles of impartiality, independence, and neutrality must be upheld at all times. China urges Israel to immediately cease its military attack on Gaza. Yesterday, an American hostage was released and returned home, which we welcome. And we hope that the United States, as a country with significant influence on parties concerned, will uphold a fair and responsible attitude and contribute to efforts that will bring about a ceasefire in Gaza.
Observe a state of Palestine.
Mr. President, 93% of Gaza's children, 930,000 children, are at critical risk of famine. Not because there is no food. Food is there, a few meters away, rotting instead of reaching those who desperately need it. But because Israel has been openly and brazenly blocking humanitarian aid for over 2 months now, this is engineered starvation. It is the most inhumane form of torture and killing. If ever more proof was needed for the intention to destroy the Palestinian people in Gaza, this manufactured famine is the ultimate proof. Mr. President, Netanyahu was clear yet again about the goals of this war against our people. He said before the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee of the Israeli Knesset on Sunday, and I quote, "We are destroying more and more homes. They have nowhere to return to. The only inevitable outcome will be the wish of Gazans to immigrate outside of the Gaza Strip." End of quotation. He is confessing that it is the destruction and death that Israel is wantonly and deliberately spreading that will force Palestinians in Gaza to leave, and that it is indeed Israel's intent to forcibly remove them. President Trump declared from Saudi Arabia today that the United States was continuing to work to end the war as quickly as possible. We hope that President Trump's visit to the region will allow to achieve such a ceasefire and to build a political horizon of freedom for the Palestinian people, security for all, and shared prosperity for our region.
I now give the floor to the Permanent Representative of Israel.
Before I begin, I want to express Israel's relief in seeing Idan Alexander return home after almost 600 days of Hamas captivity. We were honored to welcome his parents, Adi and Yael, to the United Nations just a few months ago. Their strengths moved us all. We thank the United States for its role in securing Idan's release. We also reaffirm that Israel will not rest until every last one of the 58 remaining hostages is brought home. The reports emerging from Idan's time in captivity are deeply disturbing. Idan was subjected to constant torture, tied in a cage by his hands and feet, and starved. This is the reality of Hamas's treatment of hostages. Hamas steals humanitarian aid. He told you that. He had seen with his own eyes UN aid packages carried into Hamas tunnels. He watched as the terrorists ate like kings while he and his fellow hostages were left to starve. Let that image sink in. The aid you sent, the aid your taxpayers funded, the aid you believed would help civilians, the aid marked by UN and UNRWA emblems, it was used to feed terrorists to massacred women and children. Israel will not allow that to continue. We will not allow the old broken system to remain in place. I have been here for many years in this building. It was shocking to see that even before the proposal had been finalized or made public, the UN and the Secretary General had already dismissed it. How many meetings we had about this proposal? The Secretary General said he refused to engage in, and I quote, any scheme, that's how he called it, that in his view does not meet the principles of, and I quote, impartiality, humanity, independence, and neutrality. The irony is unbelievable, as the previous mechanism made a mockery of every one of those principles. That is not diplomacy. That is not neutrality. That is sabotage disguised as principle. It is outrageous that the UN, an organization built upon global cooperation and dialogue, refuses to engage with states offering real solutions. If you demand that Israel facilitate aid while ignoring how that aid has been used by terrorists, then you are not defending international law. You are destroying it. Direct your outrage and frustration at the terrorist organization that steals the aid you pay for.
There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.